Hi, so this week I'm fixing a Nintendo Switch that won't read any games. So here's the Nintendo Switch that I've recently got. So I picked this up locally for around about £30. It's in pretty good condition. As you can see, I turn it on and the touchscreen doesn't work either. So that does normally lead to a faulty touchscreen or a faulty connector. So I had the Joy-Cons on just to be able to log in. So we'll be able to get onto it. I'll have a little look at the card reader. So I'll get a game, pop it in, and as you can see, the game is not getting recognised. It also sounds a little bit crunchy. So time to get it apart. So back plate off. Disconnect the battery first thing so we don't do any shorts. Now we need to get the game card reader out, so there's 3 screws at the top. Undo the ribbon cable and gently prise it off. And then straight away I can see we've got damage to the connector on the board. That's probably one of the reasons, but also looking inside it seems to be a little bit of damage on the cart itself. So we get the motherboard out in preparation, and then we'll have a little look under the microscope. So this is the cart reader. Connections on the board, connector look okay. But when we look inside the card reader itself, you can see that pretty much all the pins inside which line up to the cartridge are all bent and destroyed, so there's no fixing that. And then there's the connector on the board, so we need to be taking that off. So we just get it into position, overhanging. I don't have any new ones, so what I'm going to have to do is use a donor board. So I've got this one here, it seems to look okay. So I'll just apply a little bit of flux to the donor board first. I'm going to heat from underneath, 420C, around about 70% airflow. And then it shouldn't take long. Just keep moving it around. And then we'll get the tweezers and then we'll gently lift it up and off. Now we'll go back to our board which is damaged, so again we'll apply a little bit of flux and then we'll apply the heat underneath, the same again, 420C. Keep moving it around, just be really careful that you don't knock any chips underneath. And then after a couple of seconds, all the solid's going to melt, and then very carefully lift up. You don't want to be lifting either side or you're going to knock some of these caps off, which will make it a bigger job. Then we'll apply a little bit of solder. So we're applying fresh solder to the pads, try and make it as easy as possible. Unfortunately, after I did a little bit of cleaning of isopropyl, I noticed that I was a bit heavy-handed and I did knock a couple of caps to the left, so we're just going to need to fix them. So we'll do that first. So again, just apply the heat from underneath and then very carefully get your tweezers and then budge them back into place. Once the solder melts, it's easy enough to move them. The solder will try and pull them back into place, so just gently nudge them and then they'll go back in and then they'll be sorted. So this part here, I couldn't seem to get solder to take to this pad, so I got my tweezers and then started scraping a little bit more. Give it a quick clean of isopropyl, and now I'm going to apply a little bit of flux and a little bit more solder. And as you can see, I have now got a little bit of solder attached. I wondered whether the pad might have been torn off, but for some reason it just wasn't taking, but now it is. So we apply a little bit of flux. We don't need too much, otherwise the new connector will float away. Rub it with your finger, then get your tweezers and place the new part on, and try your best to line it up as best as possible. Now we'll just put it under the heat again, 420C, and then use your tweezers to nudge it. It needs moving. Sometimes the solder will pull it into place, other times you need to nudge it yourself just to get it perfectly lined up. And when it is, remove the heat and then just leave it. Once it's cooled down, clean with isopropyl alcohol again, and then hopefully we're okay on that. So then we'll just have a quick look under the microscope, and then on this side all the joints look nice and strong, and then on this side, once we zoom in and focus, you can see all the joints and connections look all perfect on that side and no loose gaps either. So this is the damaged game card reader that I've took out. As you can see, all the pins are a bit bent, so I've decided I'm going to try and fix it. So I happen to have a replacement card reader attachment thing itself, which I bought a long time ago, and now I'm going to try and give it a swap over. So first things first, I'm going to apply a little bit of solder to the 4 pads to hold it into place, nice and simple like that. Then I'm going to apply a little bit of flux, and I'm going to get some decent solder wick and my soldering iron with a big tip on, and I'm going to suck out all the excess solder. As you can see, nice and easy. So as long as you've got decent solder wick, and there is a difference between spending cheap and a bit more expensive one, just put on all the 4 pads and it should be able to suck out all of the solder from the holes. Just keep getting fresh bits of solder wick so it's nice and easy and sucks it all out. It just goes to show that you don't always need expensive equipment like desoldering machines. Just a nice big tipped soldering iron and some semi-decent solder wick will do the job. So then there you go, all 4 holes are cleaned. And then if you just get a pair of tweezers gently underneath, you can see that it lifts up on both sides. So we've cleaned the holes as required. So now we've got all of these pins at the bottom that need coming off, so the first thing we'll do is we'll run flux right the way along. And then I'm just getting my soldering iron with loads of solder, and I'm just going to run it along back and forward across all of the pins. Then once it's fully covered, I just slide a little tweezer underneath one side. And then I gently lift up as I'm running over and over pads. So you need to do this really slowly because you don't want to be ripping any pads off. So the idea of this is you're loosening the solder and then you're gently lifting. So just keep doing it in sections, work your way along and then gently ease up. Again, there's no rush at doing this, you don't want to be ripping any pads, making it a bigger job. And then I just reposition my tweezers on the other side, gently lifting whilst running the solder iron along the pins. And then eventually it becomes loose and then it'll just lift off and away. And then we can throw the old connector away. So we just apply a little bit of flux to the old pads, so we need to give these a clean up. And then get our soldering wick again and then just go along and then clean up all the excess solder, getting rid of any of the bridges that we created. Then we give it a quick clean of isopropyl alcohol, get it all prepared. Now we get our new connector, just take it out of the packaging and then we'll get it into place. Clips in nice and easy, so as you can see it all lines up perfect, but we're going to get the ground and legs done first. So we just apply a little bit of flux and then just a little bit of solder and then just to hold it on there so the solder flows nice and deep into them holes. So we'll do the same again for the other side, just keeps it nice and secure. We can make sure that it's still lined up, which it is, and then we just put the solder into the remaining 2 grounding pins. Like I said, plenty of solder, let it all flow through, make them all nice and secure. So we're almost there, it's all nice and flat in the right position. Now all that needs doing is to do the pins along the bottom, so we'll run flux right the way along again. And then we'll come with our soldering iron and then we'll just hold the soldering iron on each pin and the pads underneath. So just go along getting them all done. It doesn't matter if you do any bridges, because what we'll do is we'll add a little bit of flux and then we'll purposely use our soldering iron just to press in them sections, and then the solder should flow to the pad and then stop any bridges. So again, nice and slow, take your time, and all the bridges that there will go. If you do have a bridge that doesn't budge, then just keep adding a little bit more solder, and then eventually it will start flowing. Just use your soldering iron, pulling away, and it should pull the bridge out. So we just got a little bit of solder on the screw port here, so we just need the solder wick again to remove it. And then we'll give it another clean with isopropyl, getting rid of any of the excess flux. So we'll do both sides, give it all nice and clean, make sure it's not sticky. So we just have a little closer look under the microscope, make sure that it's all okay. So I think there's possibly a little join there. So again, a tiny little bit of flux is needed. Pop your soldering iron on, and then as you can see, it disperses it straight away. Give it a clean up, double check all the pins, but I'm happy with all them. So this is the repaired connector. That's the old one. We'll just connect it back up into the switch, so connect the ribbon cable. Connect onto the connector that's being soldered to the motherboard. We'll put one screw in to make it nice and secure, that's all that's required. Connect the battery, flip it over, we'll press the power button, and it still turns on, which is always a good sign. Let it load up. So we log on, touchscreen's working fine, which is good. Here's the game card, we'll give this a go. So we just pop it in. And there we go, recognises straight away. And it's working, which is always nice. And then we just click on it, make sure that the game boots itself, which it should do as it is showing. And there we have it, a now fully working Nintendo Switch. So we had two issues with this. We had a damaged connector on the board, and we also had a very butchered game cart reader. And as you can see, we repaired both of them, and now we've got a Nintendo Switch that plays games again. Just needs putting back together and giving a bit of a clean up. So thanks very much for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe.